Hey guys, and welcome to another Game Explained discussion. I'm your host Ash Paulson, and I'm joined today by Sean Velasco and David D'Angelo from Yacht Club Games to talk about the upcoming Shovelknight, Specter of Torment, and Shovelknight on Nintendo Switch. So let's get started. Alright guys, so thank you again for sitting down with me today.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah,
it's cool to be here.
And I actually just got done playing some Specter of Torment myself on the Switch, so I'm super excited, but before I talk about it, I wanted to get it straight from the source, so let's jump right in and let's talk about how overall development on Specter of Torment started. Like, what was your direction from the very beginning?
Well, Specter of Torment is the second expansion to Shovelknight that we've done. The first one was Shovelknight Plague of Shadows, which was a campaign starring Plague Knight, and it was a thing that kind of turned Shovelknight on its head. So instead of playing as the hero, you played as the villain, and Shovel Knight's moveset is very different from Plague Knight's moveset. The story was different, the levels were rearranged a little bit. And so with Specter Knight, which is the next one, we wanted to go much more all out. And on top of that, I think this expansion is also a response to how Plague Knight was. So we wanted Specter Knight to be a game where it was really easy to look super cool and bring in some of the dark and macabre sort of Specter Knight stuff that's like associated with that character. So instead of being a more light and happy story, it's a little bit more melancholy and you get to be a little more evil. And so I guess those are the tenets that we started out making Specter Knight. It's like that's what we were thinking about, making it easy to be cool, making a prequel to Shovel Knight that had a whole new story, and we wanted to do new takes on the bosses. We wanted to have all new graphics for the stages. There's new music. There's new everything. So even though Plague of Shadows had a lot of new stuff, I would say Specter of Torment has even more new stuff. It's pretty much an entirely new game.
Yeah, I mean, when we were like, there was basically like two core things we were responding to, I'd say, for Plague Knight. One was the difficulty and making it easy to jump in the same way Shovel Knight's easy to jump in.
Right.
And the second thing is that we felt like the response to Plague Knight people weren't as excited about it as we were.
Right.
And I mean, I think when people got into Plague Knight a lot, they found a lot of enjoyment out of it. But from the start, it looks like Shovel Knight 100%. You know, you're going through the same Shovel Knight levels. There's not that much new content, even though it feels completely new playing it. So the goal with this one really was to make it completely new. From the look and the feel.
To make it stand out more and to have it be something that people could get really excited about, that didn't just seem like it was like a side game or like a DLC or something like that.
Right. Well, I have to say, I mean, I was just surprised a few minutes ago because I came in expecting something along the levels of Plague Knight. But no, it really does feel like an entirely new game. Each stage has new music. You've got new graphics in each stage, and I believe you said the boss patterns are all new as well, correct?
Yeah, we kind of did we called it like the EX bosses. So
Okay,
instead
nice.
of having the regular boss pattern, at some point they would break out and do a whole totally new thing that makes a battle feel different. So and generally they're more crazy and over the top, and in addition to the patterns that they already had, so it's just kind of layering thing over thing over thing.
Yeah, and I mean, we tried to make, I think some of the response of Plague Knight was it felt like it wasn't built for this character, right? And so we wanted to make it really feel like, it's all built for, Specter Knight, even including the bosses, right? All those attacks were specifically made to work with Specter Knight and make sense and be fun. So.
Yeah.
Well, it's amazing just how much difference your air control can feel, because Shovel Knight feels like Mega Man in that you can change direction in the middle of your jump, whereas Plague Knight was more like Simon Belmont, which I think might have thrown a lot of people off, where you really have to commit to that jump.
Yeah. I mean, Plague Knight was a little bit awkward, I would say, just for people to play in general. Having to hold down a button to charge up your attack and then doing the double jump and chaining them all together. I think it was just like we were saying, once you get into it, it's so cool, but
Sure.
the barrier to entry is pretty high. And so yeah, I mean, with Specter Knight we have the dash slash and the wall climb, and so you can climb any wall. You can jump back and forth and do like almost like a Mega Man X style wall jump. You can climb the wall for a few tiles, and then any enemy you can target them and slash across the screen, and it just looks super cool.
Right.
And so we built everything around those mobility mechanics, and it necessitated pretty much that all the levels had to be totally redesigned.
Right. Okay, so in obviously Shovel Knight and Plague Knight both have their own ways that they power up throughout the game. Shovel Knight has the relics and the meal tickets, whereas Plague Knight, he has kind of like the bombs and the various fuses and things like that. So what are we looking at in terms of Specter Knight? How does he power up throughout the game?
Well, I would say he's more along the lines of Shovel Knight, so there's not going to be any complex bomb arranging that you found in Plague Knight.
Right.
So it's more, you're finding curios, which are Specter Knight's version of relics.
Okay.
You're buying those throughout the game, and then you're also getting armors the same way you do with Shovel Knight, and those are the main things.
Yeah, the cool part, I would say the cool part, just like with Shovel Knight, the curios let you cheat the gameplay a little bit,
Sure.
right? Just like classic like Mega Man, item 1, item 2, item 3, right? Each one has a specific purpose, and the curios also have a specific purpose. Specter Knight is a very agile character, right? He can climb up the walls, he can dash slash all the way across the screen through enemies, but sometimes you're falling down a pit and you need to be saved, or sometimes you want to be a little bit more powerful than you were, but briefly. Sometimes you may want to refill some of your health, and so like those are the types of things that you'll be able to do with these curios. There's a new collectible in the game, and so there's a limited amount of them in each stage, and you're going to have to trade those in to get the curios. So they don't use regular money like Shovel Knights did. And the curios level up. This is like the first time that there's like a level 2 for every curio.
Oh, okay.
So if you had like, let's say you had like the Castlevania boomerang, and then you level it up, and then it becomes like a much larger, cooler boomerang that goes through the walls and kills everybody. It's like that type of thing.
And are those upgrades permanent, or
yes,
okay.
yeah, those are permanent upgrades. So
cool.
Yeah, so there's about the same. I would say it's like about the same amount of relics types of things as Shovel Knight has. And then I would say the armors are also a little bit more integrated into the game than they were with Shovel Knight. Like
Sure.
they give you some really powerful, cool powers that you can get relatively early in the game.
Nice.
So you can kind of customize your Specter Knight to be, I think, a little bit more suited to your gameplay style a little bit earlier on.
Now, you are officially billing Specter of Torment as a prequel to the core Shovel Knight story. Can you talk a bit about how the story in general and how everything kind of fits in?
Sure. I mean, I don't want to give too much away,
Sure.
but the basic setup is that Specter Knight is the servant of the Enchantress, and he's been tasked with recruiting the entire Order of No Quarter before the Order of No Quarter exists. So it is somewhat similar to Shovel Knight and Plague Knight in that you're going to those same bosses, but now you're going to them to recruit them, and it's set in a different time period.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. And then, all right, well, I think that about wraps up for my questions for Specter of Torment. So let's move on to the co-op mode, which you just recently announced is no longer exclusive to Wii U, but every system without the need for an amiibo. So what led to your decision to include co-op on other systems? Why now?
Well, we've wanted to have co-op on all the systems, definitely, and we've also gotten a lot of requests for it. So yeah, this just seemed like a good opportunity since we're kind of relaunching the game and separating everything out just to deliver co-op to everyone.
And when we were talking about bringing it to Nintendo Switch, I think that was a big component of it too, because it's like, oh, this is a console where you can switch from single player to 2 players with the same console really easily. It's like, we really should get our co-op working on that.
Yes.
Yeah.
And barring any use of the amiibo was we didn't want to restrict it in any way.
Yeah.
So
yeah, which isn't to say, I mean, the amiibo still has custom night and and the challenge levels, which are exclusive to
and
it.
the co-op challenges levels.
The co-op challenges also, yes,
So those are all still specifically exclusive to Wii U.
Yeah, all the amiibo stuff.
All the amiibo stuff.
Well, I mean, it uses the amiibo, like like custom night, like saves the data like to the amiibo, and you can bring it around and everything.
Right.
But the co-op, no amiibo is necessary.
Cool. And then can we assume that the amiibo functionality will be included in the Switch version as well?
Yes.
Cool.
Yes, it will be.
Okay. Now, of course, you somewhat already answered this, but opening up co-op to other platforms means you have some exclusive content. You're in this weird halfway point to having exclusive content to Nintendo. And how do you respond to any criticisms like, okay, well, you guys have Kratos and Battletoads, but you don't have a Nintendo character?
Right. Well, I mean, on the Wii U, we had the Miiverse, the Digger's Diary, right? So it was almost like a sort of Dark Souls-esque system where you could leave messages for other players, and they were all tied to every single room in the game. So you could give away secrets or complain about the stage that was too hard for you or whatever. And then in 3DS, we had Street Pass, which was so cool. It was like a Street Pass arena where you would set up your battle character basically, and then you would pit it against another character as you pass by on Street Pass. And then also the 3DS version has stereoscopic 3D. Which is exclusive, and I wish everyone could have that 3D because it's like so cool looking.
It really does look phenomenal.
Yeah.
Like out of all the 3DS games that use stereoscopic 3D, that's absolutely one of the best.
Yeah,
different layers.
And Specter Knight looks so cool with it too. I've just been working on it. Like my eyes are crossing because I've been doing the 3D-itization. But so those are Nintendo exclusive features. I would say that's like
and the amiibo is a huge thing.
Yes.
I mean, there's 50 upgrades.
Yes.
And there's 10 challenge stages or something like that.
Yeah, 5
so
challenges.
we feel like there's a lot of exclusive content on those Nintendo systems.
Yeah, no matter what platform you're on, I think you're definitely going to be very well taken care of.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
All right, well, so I just got done specifically playing the Switch version of the Specter of Torment and co-op. So if we could talk about the Switch for a bit, how has it been developing for the Switch compared to the Wii U?
Well, I mean, we're very used to this process.
Sure.
So it was very easy. I mean, we had it up and running in a few days.
Okay.
But the same is true of the Wii U. So
Sure.
I mean, we don't come from a background where we're relying on other engines or tech to be in place. Like we're from the ground up. All we're making everything. So it's really easy for us to make that transition.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean the tech and the tools and everything behind it that Nintendo's put together, I say is pretty good, and we're very appreciative of of their efforts to keep improving their development process.
Yeah, I mean, I would say getting it on the Switch was less about the tech and more about making decisions about how the breaking off the controllers was going to work and integrating the game into into a whole new platform, right? So just like when we would go to any platform, going to the Switch, we're trying to think, how can we make it as cool as possible for the Switch? And that's a big reason why co-op is just out of the box available, because it's so well suited to that platform specifically.
I mean, that's usually one of the most difficult thing of having a new platform is having an idea of what it's going to be, if that makes sense.
Sure.
So we don't know when someone picks it up how they normally expect pulling off the controllers to work. Is it automatic, or do I set it through the home menu, or those kind of the basic interactions with it? There's no establishment for how it works in other games.
Right. We can't even look it's not like there are Nintendo games that are out right now that we we usually would and look at them and be like, well, what do they do?
What do they do? What does everyone expect on this system?
Right.
So those are sort of the big questions we're always playing around with. Is what do we think is going to happen and be the expectation on the platform?
And when you're out early on the life of any platform, I think it's just a journey of figuring it out.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I definitely had a very quick proof of concept moment when we were just playing co-op a few minutes ago, and I was holding the Joy-Con grip, and of course I'm not used to the Switch like you guys are, so I okay, let's do co-op, and I'm waiting for you to bring out another controller. And I'm like, no, wait, I can just disconnect, and here you have it. Yeah. You have 2 controllers there ready to go, and that's so cool.
Yeah.
So I definitely can see why you chose to bring co-op now to systems other than Wii U.
Yeah, it's so cool to be able to just bring it wherever you want.
Yep.
So was there ever any question that you would bring Shovel Knight to Switch, or was it just a matter of time? It was just like you heard Nintendo was announcing a new console, so...
I mean,
we are of the thought that anything that has a controller, we'd like to put Shovel Knight on it.
Sure.
So, we really just want to get Shovel Knight in as many hands as possible, and so to us, it's like, of course, we would do it.
Yeah, and also, I mean, we love Nintendo. It's like they're our heritage platform, and so like I'd say we always feel good supporting Nintendo.
Right.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, you just touched on this, but let's go a little more in depth. As developers, what feature or features of the Switch are you most excited by? Are you most excited to take advantage of?
I really like. Having the co-op in one system is really nice. Like, just to think, oh, I want to bring this to my friend to show him the game or her the game is just a really cool concept in general that like is really tough with another system, right?
How many platforms actually have come with two controllers nowadays, right? Like nothing is set up to be played multiplayer, but this is something that invites you to have two players all the time. And so that's just that's my favorite part of it too, is just having both of them packed in. It's funny because like that's like, like Nintendo came with two controllers, or like Super Nintendo came with two controllers, but that's my favorite part. The next thing I would say was probably just being able to dock it and take it out, and that being instant. And like you said, like I can't wait to go on a flight and to kick out that stand and play it the entire time.
Right.
Also, I love the detached controllers. I've been since the Wii, I was like, please, I hope everyone makes detached controllers from now on, because it feels like so nice to have them separated. So that, to me, that's really exciting. I know some people like to be locked in, but
they might as well be, because it's not as if you can feel the seams where the Joy-Cons connect to the Switch. Like you can feel them, but it doesn't feel loose.
The hardware all feels extremely solid. Like really super solid.
Really nice.
Clicking the Joy-Cons in, pulling them back out, getting it all set up in the controller. It's all very straightforward and easy, so that's cool.
And I learned something new today, which was the Switch itself actually has a little click sound that plays in addition to the real life click sound that plays, which is awesome.
It's very cute.
It's very Nintendo.
So now there's been a lot of ado made online about the performance differences about the Switch when it's docked versus undocked. Have you guys run into anything where that's concerned? Do you have any feelings about the difference in power undocked versus docked?
Just from a development standpoint, Shovel Knight is not. The Switch is much more overpowered. We're running it on the 3DS, right?
Yeah.
Right.
So from that standpoint, we haven't really run into those issues, and haven't really experimented to see if we blast as many particles on there as possible. What's it like when it's docked versus not being docked?
Right.
So actually, when we found out that news, that was the first I knew of it.
Yeah, that was a little surprising.
Gotcha. Okay. So what kind of battery life are Switch owners looking like if we just want to play Shovel Knight and nothing else? How long will our Switch last us?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
I don't know.
All right.
We have not experimented with the battery life. And part of the reason is because we're operating on non-retail kits.
Right. We're on development hardware, and so it's like hooked up to the computer for a lot of the time, right?
And it's hard to know, is that going to be the final version that you see in the stores or not? Testing those kind of things isn't really worth our time, because who knows, it could be 10 times what our development works.
A lot of times the dev kit will have little minor differences between what the final version is, like even like an aesthetic difference,
Right. So probably longer than Zelda, but no specific.
I can't imagine that it would push it that hard.
Gotcha. Yeah. So then my last question is: do you have a recommended or preferred controller that you like to play when playing Shovel Knight on the Switch?
Preferred controller?
Yeah, just like of the three options, I guess, or four. And I go Joy-Con sideways or Joy-Con grips, Pro controller.
Right. Well, I haven't actually tried the Pro controller.
Yeah,
we don't have one.
Don't know.
Oh, okay.
We don't know what that's like. But I like it. I like it split off. One in my left hand, one in my right hand, playing single player. I think that's my favorite way to play it.
Okay. So like tabletop mode, although you don't necessarily
like tabletop mode, but not necessarily
like the Wii U nunchuck combo.
Got it.
Right,
okay.
like that kind of combo.
Yeah.
That's my favorite.
Cool. All right. Well, then let's move on to the last segment of the interview, which is about Shovelknight Treasure Trove. And this is kind of an idea I had kind of right before we did this interview, but I've run into a lot of people online and a lot of fans who don't quite understand what Treasure Trove is and how it relates to what is already out there. So, Could you guys explain exactly what Treasure Trove is for our fans and your fans?
So Treasure Trove is essentially just a rebranding of the existing game. So if you own Shovelknight, when we make this switch, it will turn into Shovelknight Treasure Trove. It's exactly the same thing. You'll get all the same updates for free. It'll work 100% how you expected. It's just a name change. But in the future, if you don't own Shovelknight, when you buy it, you can either buy Shovelknight Treasure Trove, which has all the updates for free and is the complete collection of all the expansions, or you can buy each expansion or each campaign mode as a standalone. So you can buy Shovelknight, the original campaign, which is now Shovel of Hope, as a standalone, or you can buy Specter of Torment as a standalone, or you can buy Plague Knight as a standalone.
Sure.
And later on, you'll be able to buy King Knight as a standalone and Battle Mode as a standalone.
Right.
So the real goal for us was to provide avenues where, someone might not be interested in the whole package, and we didn't want to make them go through that content if they weren't interested. So something like, I want a 4-player battle mode with my friends. I'll buy battle mode. I don't want a single player game, right?
Or it's like I have it on because battle mode won't be available on 3DS, so it's like you for a cheaper price you would be able to get it on another platform that supports the 4-player battle mode.
Got it. Right.
So really it's just like providing as many ways to access the game as possible. The same way we try to put the game on as many platforms as possible.
Yes.
And then speaking of price, are you talking yet about what each individual component will cost around? Or
we've announced for the Switch, the Treasure Trove will be $24.99, and Specter of Torment by itself will be $9.99.
Okay.
But we haven't decided, or we haven't announced the rest, I should say.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then, as I understand it correctly, you're actually bringing Specter of Torment and co-op to Switch before other platforms? Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Shovelknight Treasure Trove will appear on Switch first.
Okay.
And Specter of Torment will be on there first.
That's right.
Got it. Okay. Now, of course, you have rebranded the original Shovel Knight as Shovel of Hope. The original campaign is now Shovel of Hope.
Right.
Do you worry that might dilute or devalue the main character Shovel Knight compared to all of his these other campaigns?
Well, they are all called Shovelknight something.
Yeah.
Right? And I think that's a big reason why we're separating all this out. It's not to push Shovelknight into the shadows. It's to kind of bring everyone out and highlight them a little bit more.
Sure.
With Plague of Shadows, we had issues getting the word out that it existed and making it exciting for people because it just seemed like it was a free DLC that wasn't worth necessarily your time. But now, with having Specter of Torment as its own separate SKU, having Shovel of Hope, and having Plague of Shadows, we're hoping that people will get their eyes on it in ways that they never had before. It means that we'll be able to have different store pages and be able to we could put the different parts of the game on sale if we wanted to. So it's like, it's Halloween now, Specter Knight is half off or something like that. So it just gives us more flexibility, and it lets us highlight everything to just get our message out to people a little bit more.
Yeah, and to go back to the question a little bit, that I mean, we think about it along the lines of something like, Super Mario 2 Yoshi's Island, right? Mm-hmm. I don't think that in any way makes Mario seem like less of a character.
Sure.
It's more about just emphasizing who's important in the gameplay for that particular game.
Yeah, expanding the universe a little bit.
Right.
Gotcha. Well then, okay, as we wrap up, obviously Specter of Torment is not the last component to be added to this treasure trove. You have more content coming up. Do you want to kind of go over that really quickly, what people can expect in the coming months?
Sure. So what we haven't mentioned yet is Body Swap mode, which is coming to everything with Specter of Torment.
Right.
So get excited for that, which is basically you can switch the body types of all of the main Order No Quarter Knights, Shield Knight, Enchantress,
Black Knight,
and Shovel Knight.
Yeah,
that's
so
cool.
You can say, I want a male Shield Knight, and I want a female Specter Knight, and I want.
You can choose all of them, like from a big list. And so, like we did cool like really freaking cool redesigns of all the characters. So like Enchantress is like the enchanter and like is like a big imposing like almost like Ganondorf kind of looking character, and like all the Order of No Quarter got female versions, and we really tried with to make the personalities of the characters be exactly what they would be for both the male and the female version. So it's like some characters like Plague Knight, you can't even really tell that much that it's one or the other. It's just like a slight costume change. But with some of them it's a lot more, like for instance Polar Knight, who's this big hulking bearded dude. We had to figure out how are we going to make that character have that same sort of bulk like in a female form. And so what we ended up doing was we gave her like these big giant braids that go over her shoulders and like expand the bulk of the form, and when you look at the silhouettes they look like almost the same. So there's so many cool little design things that happened, and just all the sprites are all new, and it's just cool. I mean,
it's really
once
fun
again
to like go into Shovel Knight, to like the Shovel Knight round table at the end of the game and see all those eight knights, and it's like, whoa, who are these cool characters?
Yeah.
Like you forget like how cool they were to begin with. So that's the one thing we hadn't mentioned, and then what's coming next is King Knight, which is a campaign starring the goofy knight that we all love. So we've been working on that this past year, and
basically just another campaign like the same way that Specter Knight had his own campaign, Plague Knight had his own campaign. It's like it's going to be a full-on cool experience that hopefully channels some of the wackiness of King Knight the same way that Specter Knight channels like some of the melancholy like horror stuff. And then
the last thing is the 4-player battle mode, which is we haven't said too much about what it is other than you can play as all the knights from the Order of No Quarter, and then some other characters, and it's you could picture it like very, very tiny Smash Bros. Or, what's the tower? Like a tower fall. Like a tower fall. Like it's a shorter, briefer, like Mario battle kind of.
Right. It's not the
fighting.
It's not the most. We're not adding parries and dodges and B tilts for everybody. But. I'd say it has like a pretty good amount of depth in it. It's already pretty far along.
Yes,
like we've been having a lot of fun playing it.
I can imagine.
And just going through and being like, I'm gonna play as Tinker Knight is like a really ton of fun.
And it's like getting to use their moves and being able to embody that character and act kind of the same way that they were in the campaign is a ton of fun. So, and I think we're going to end up, now that it's going to be a standalone, we have the ability to expand on it even a little bit more than we were thinking about in the first place. So hopefully we can add some cool features to it and make it something that people can get really excited for as a game of its own merit, as opposed to being just like, oh, this is like a little add-on for the game I already have.
Right. Cool. Well, that was my last question. So I just want to thank you both again for sitting down with me today.
Sure, thank you so much.
And that about wraps it up for us here. So thank you guys for watching, and if you enjoyed this video, please hit that like button and subscribe to our channel. You can find all of our social media links in the video description below. Otherwise, keep it on Game Explain for more on Shovel Knight, Specter of Torment, and all things gaming. Until next time, guys, bye!